So I had like a whole introduction poem planned, and that shit just was not working out every time I tried to record. So we're just gonna like do it pretty traditionally and have a regular intro. I wanted to reshare some of my poetry with you guys. I don't really talk about it much. I think people have honestly forgotten that I'm a poet. And it's funny because I'm like poet first, everything else second and third and last. So I hope that you guys enjoy this art. I am saying it for the final time that 2023 will be the year that Brown Girl Almighty, my poetry book, comes out. I'm just manifesting that shit. I've been manifesting that shit since I was 16. So, yeah, I dropped the hard drive that the manuscript is on, and they tried to charge me $3,000 to get that shit fixed, which is why I think that I haven't really talked about my poetry or whatever. So if you want to donate to help me get that shit fixed, I'll leave my cash app on the screen. Anyways, I hope you enjoy the video. My father used to sell MAC cosmetics out the trunk of his car. Don't ask me how he did it. I just knew it was a good day when he'd let me pick through what he had. And I remember doing this twice. The last time, I spotted Ruby Woo and knew I needed her bad. The Punky Brewster, fun, color-loving preteen in me seen her bright red hue and loudly professed, "That one." But my father refused. Said some bullshit about how red wasn't an appropriate color for a little girl. And all I could think was how I didn't know a color could be inappropriate for a little girl. What my father was telling me was that adults would be uncomfortable seeing a 12-year-old in red lipstick because it alludes to promiscuity. And how I dream of a world where my innocence was nurtured longer than it was seen as a game of who could take it away first. One of the most frustrating aspects of growing up as a girl were the disclaimers that came with it. Maybe you shouldn't do this. Maybe you shouldn't wear that. I have a core memory of my uncle stealing shorts out of my bag during the hot Georgia summers and burning them when I wasn't looking. What made this even worse was that he never admitted to what he did. When I asked where they were, he claimed I'd get them back when the summer was over. I didn't know how inconvenient my existence was or how distracting the development of my body could be. When I look back, there were so many comments adults made to me about my appearance that I did not understand what they were trying to say. So I'd smile and nod and maybe laugh because I was taught to make others comfortable even though I was not. I don't remember the day that colorful leggings stopped being fun and started making me concerned with how my body looked in them. When I couldn't leave the house without making sure my t-shirt was long enough to cover my butt. But I can guarantee you that they were sad days. Days that I wouldn't want to remember anyway. As a child, dress-up parties were my favorite activity. I'd pick up every tool dress and every toy chest that my friends and I had. They told me that I could be anyone that I wanted, but never that the princesses I dressed as could be me. I learned insecurity at an early age, that whiteness was the epitome of beauty, that my features were not worthy of a platform, that even when black girls were represented in the media, they were always too sassy or loud or invisible. Lack of representation introduced me to European beauty standards before I could even spell my own name. At the age of 7, I knew perms better than I knew my roots, and isn't that just like America? To want us to forget where we came from. Assimilation has always worked best when the victim is taught to hate themselves, and isn't that an injustice? Growing up before they made a black Disney princess convinced me that my skin was a burden, and I should have never been able to understand the weight of racism, but it took Disney 72 years to make a princess that looked like me, one with brown skin, kinky hair, and full lips. So now, I tell all the black kids who want to be princesses that of course they can be Tiana, but that they can also be their own. Ones with Bantu knots or cornrows or locks, ones with dark skin or freckles or vitiligo, ones that wear dresses or capes or tutus and call themselves the heroes of their own stories. In 2006, the IAU changed its definition of the word planet. That same year, the status of Pluto was downgraded so that we could no longer consider it such. Ever since, many scientists have fought to reclaim it a member of our terrestrial planet system. Some days I feel like Pluto, drifting alone on the edge of our solar system. I watch planets pass me by, but they don't stay for long. They never do. Most days I wonder if I was ever good enough to have a spot in this popular universe. Probably not. I've been hoping that another will come along and deem me worthy enough to be in theirs, but it is not that I want to fit in. It's that I want a place to call my own. The IAU says to be considered a planet, I must clear the neighborhood around my orbit, that I must consume or push away objects that cross my path, be the dominant gravitational force in my trajectory, but my biggest flaw has always been pushing the people I love away. I don't really wait for an explanation anymore. When my intuition is off the charts, I'm not wrong and I never have been. But despite this loneliness, sometimes I appreciate the 3.2 billion miles separating me from y'all, separating me from the nearest human whose only intentions are to hurt me. I am far as fuck from the sun, so the little light I do get has never been enough to nourish the life growing inside of me. See, Pluto does not tilt on an axis, which is to say that there is always a part covered in complete darkness, and I can relate, but can't we all? The IAU says the best they can do is consider me a dwarf planet. It is a fact that Pluto has been shrinking in size ever since its discovery in 1930. It has now become smaller than its moon. The anxiety makes me walk fast. I've been so busy trying to keep up with y'all that I left myself behind in the process. My days count as 6 of Earths, but I still feel like I'm losing time. The IAU says I gotta do better. Says that I need to meet protocol, that I must fit all these requirements to make me worthy of being in this universe. But aren't these the same niggas who used to think every planet in the solar system revolved around Earth? Which is to say, y'all have got your shit wrong once and you are bound to do it again. Just because I'm at the edge of this galaxy does not mean I'm not worthy of all the space I take up. Despite the challenges I may face on my orbit around the sun, I am here and I am doing just fucking fine. There are 3 main theories for where the stereotypical image of the heart comes from. The first says it derives from the African plant silphium, an aphrodisiac that acts as a contraceptive, seasoning, and medicine. legend to be so valuable that Julius Caesar hid 15,000 pounds before its extinction. It was used as a trade for goods and services, put on coins, sold the idea of love to peasants who didn't have anything but the idea of holy matrimony. The second comes from Aristotle. Before autopsies, he claimed that the human heart had 3 chambers instead of 2. The drawing that he made looks like the emoji that we know today. The third comes from 2 anatomical human hearts being stitched together. This theory was recreated for visual purposes a few years ago. In the picture, 2 hearts have been sewn together, their left ventricles made into one, their aortas shaved down, their veins and arteries snipped away, and so far, this has been my favorite theory. But sometimes, I can't help but wonder if it means I must cut myself in half to make another feel whole. In one hand, I think this theory is beautiful, but in another, it is not. Some of us would rather be pierced with needle and thread than to find a love that doesn't hurt. So is this what they mean when they say to mend a broken heart? For so long, I've relied on someone to make me feel whole, but what does that say about me? If I leave my validation up to others, do I stop standing for myself? Am I not complete on my own? Abusive relationships taught me that there's nothing I can do for someone until they're strong enough to love themselves. So I think it's time I take matters into my own hands, to stop limiting myself at the expense of others, to not seek long-term answers out of temporary people, to love myself before anyone else. The world tells me I need someone, but I think the fuck not. I think the theories are bullshit. I think Aristotle can go to hell.